Landon and Martha had been married for 3 years, but their life together was far from the happily ever after they had imagined. They loved each other, but their days were often filled with arguments over the smallest things. From how to fold laundry to how to squeeze toothpaste to what to watch on TV, it seemed they couldn't agree on anything. One spring morning, Landon suggested, "Hey Martha, how about we go hiking this weekend? Maybe some fresh air will do us good." Martha hesitated, then nodded. "Okay, that might be nice. As long as you don't complain about my slow pace like last time." Landon sighed. "I promise I won't. Let's just try to enjoy it, all right?" That Saturday, they set off for the nearby mountains. The air was crisp, and the trees were starting to show their first spring buds. As they walked, an uncomfortable silence hung between them. Halfway up the trail, they came across an elderly couple sitting on a bench, looking out over the valley. The old man smiled at Landon and Martha. "Beautiful day for a hike, isn't it?" Landon nodded. "It sure is. You two seem to be enjoying it." The old woman chuckled. "Oh, we enjoy everything together. Isn't that right, George?" George patted his wife's hand. "That we do, Ellen. 40 years and counting." Martha's eyes widened. 40 years. And you still like hiking together?" Ellen laughed. "Like it. We love it. And we love being together, no matter what we're doing." Landon couldn't help but ask, "How do you do it? I mean, don't you ever argue?" George and Ellen exchanged a knowing look. "Well," George began, "we've had our share of disagreements over the years, but we learned early on that arguing doesn't solve anything. Would you mind sharing your secret?" Martha asked, a hint of desperation in her voice. Ellen grinned warmly. "It's not really a secret, dear. It's about communication, respect, and remembering why you fell in love in the first place." George nodded. "The first thing we learned was to listen to each other. Really listen, not just wait for our turn to speak. And when we disagree," Ellen added, "we try to understand each other's point of view. It's not about winning an argument. It's about finding a solution together." Landon and Martha exchanged a glance. This was definitely not how they handled their disagreements. George continued, "We also learned to pick our battles. Some things just aren't worth fighting over. If it won't matter in 5 years, it probably doesn't matter now." "But what about when you're really angry?" Landon asked. That's when the pause button comes in handy," Ellen said with a wink. "When emotions are running high, we take a break. We have a rule: no discussing heated topics when we're tired, hungry, or stressed." Martha nodded slowly. "That makes sense. We often argue late at night when we're both exhausted." "Exactly," George said. "It's amazing how many problems solve themselves after a good night's sleep and a nice breakfast." Ellen reached for George's hand. "And never forget to show appreciation, even for the small things. A thank you goes a long way." "But most importantly," George added, "we never stop dating each other. We make time for fun, for adventures, for trying new things together. It keeps the spark alive." Landon and Martha listened intently, absorbing every word. As they continued their hike, they discussed what they had learned. "Maybe we could try some of their advice," Martha suggested hesitantly. Landon nodded. "Yeah, I think we should. I don't want us to keep fighting like this." Over the next few weeks, Landon and Martha made a conscious effort to change their habits. They started having weekly date nights, where they tried new restaurants or activities. They implemented the pause button rule, agreeing to take a break when discussions became too heated. One evening, as they were cooking dinner together, Landon accidentally dropped an egg on the floor. In the past, this might have led to an argument about clumsiness or wasting food. Instead, Martha simply said, "No worries, I'll grab the mop." Landon looked at her, surprised. "Thanks, Martha. I appreciate that." Martha smiled. "You're welcome. Hey, remember when we first started dating and you tried to make me an omelet?" Landon laughed. "Oh God, what a disaster that was. I think I broke more eggs than I cooked." As they reminisced about their early days together, the tension that had become so familiar in their relationship began to melt away. Months passed, and while Landon and Martha still had disagreements, they found themselves handling them differently. They listened more, shouted less, and always tried to see things from each other's perspective. 1 year after their fateful hike, they decided to return to the same trail. As they walked hand in hand, they spotted a familiar bench and 2 familiar faces. "Well, look who it is," Ellen exclaimed as Landon and Martha approached. "How have you 2 been?" Landon and Martha exchanged a smile. "We've been great, actually," Landon said. "Thanks to the advice you gave us last year." George beamed. "That's wonderful to hear. Care to join us for a bit?" As they sat together, sharing stories and laughing, Landon couldn't help but marvel at how much had changed. He squeezed Martha's hand, feeling grateful for the wisdom they had stumbled upon on this very mountain. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the valley, Landon realized that their marriage, like this hike, was a journey. It had its ups and downs, its challenging climbs and peaceful plateaus. But with patience, understanding, and love, it was a journey worth taking every single step of the way. 单字 happy ever after. Also happily ever after. 从此过着幸福快乐的日子. Idiom happy or happily for the rest of your life, especially in a romantic relationship. Laundry 待洗或正在洗涤、洗完的衣物. Noun the dirty clothes and sheets that need to be, are being, or have been washed. Toothpaste 牙膏. Noun a substance that you put onto a toothbrush to clean your teeth. Crisp 空气清爽的、凉爽的. Adjective crisp air is cold, dry, and fresh. Desperation 急需渴求. Noun the feeling of needing or wanting something very much. Omelette 煎蛋饼、煎蛋卷. Noun a dish made by mixing eggs together and frying them, often with small pieces of other food, such as cheese or vegetables. Pick your battles. 选择你的战役。引申为不要随便跟别人起冲突。Reminisce 对愉快的往事追忆、回忆。Verb to talk or write about past experiences that you remember with pleasure. Marvel 对感到惊奇、惊叹。Verb to show or experience great surprise or admiration.